Welcome, friends, to our CMR Gold Group presentation on student accommodations. We are so happy you're with us today. What are student accommodations? Accommodations support students with disabilities in their education. Accommodations are defined as a process, an alteration, and a modification to the existing environment and processes to increase student participation. 50 years of litigation in 1 minute. There are over a dozen different litigation that has shaped education as we know it today. In 1973, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, this law prohibits discrimination based on a disability in federally funded programs. This landmark law was the first to safeguard the rights of students with disabilities. In 1975, Education for All Handicapped Children Act was the legislation that introduced the phrase free appropriate education. This mandates states use federal funds to ensure all children with disabilities receive an education fit for their individual needs. 1990, Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as ADA, was a civil rights law that required public spaces, including schools, to accommodate individuals with disabilities. ADA ensures equal educational opportunities. ADA mandates students must receive an appropriate accommodations, including adjustments to policies and practices. In 1997, IDEA reauthorization, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was updated to include provisions for transitional services for students aged 16 and older. IDEA mandates individual education programs have measurable goals addressing both academic and functional needs. In 2004, IDEA Improvement Act. This legislation clarified free and appropriate public education, also known as FAPE, FAPE. This requires students with disabilities to have access to general education curriculum and receive necessary accommodations. This is why we're here today. Great Falls Public Schools has adopted the checklist from the Office of Public Instruction to clarify and make sure that we're in compliance with all the FAPE mandates, including staff training and awareness of appropriate accommodations. In 2017 Supreme Court case, Edru F., this law refined the definition of FAPE. Educational programs must allow students to progress with consideration to their individual circumstances. Brought COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 delivered significant challenges for school districts in providing equitable education and adhering to special education mandates. It highlighted the necessity for continued compliance with IDEA and ADA standards amid unprecedented disruptions. What this looks like and sounds like, and how to apply. Many of you participated in this one question survey, And this just gives us a measure of how we're doing. The most common answer of an accommodation that we use here at CMR is extended time on tests and assessments and homework. This conclusion comes to 90.7% of what we're seeing in many of our classrooms. Several of our friends added a few of their own. When you arrived here today, we presented you with this handout of a list of accommodations that we use here at CMR. I have to honestly admit, when I first received this list, I was very overwhelmed because I wanted to know what research was all of these items based on. Step, I needed to sort them into 4 different categories. Is it an environmental accommodation, instructional accommodation, peer adult interaction or communication accommodation, and assessment? That many of these accommodations overlap and correlate with each other. As you can see, Pam, Saber, and I wanted to model for all of you what this looks like and what it sounds like. And these items that are highlighted in yellow with the filtered lighting and the natural light in this room, these are considered environmental accommodations. The temperature of this room is an accommodation. The sweet and salty snacks, along with the water, is an environmental accommodation specifically targeting students that are high anxiety and also taking medication. This helps reduce the cortisol stress hormone. Other areas that were not included on our list was the academic feedback that we provide our students each day, the good news notes to reassure that they are doing things right. That is a student accommodation in communication. When we read our tests out loud or offer a word bank, that is an assessment accommodation. This was very reassuring that we're doing a lot of things right. I loved our gold groups last month because it introduced me to the idea of AI technology. And Magic School is a fantastic tool to pull out suggestions on strategies on how to apply accommodations. One area that I personally struggle with is cell phone use in my classroom. I wanted to know how I could best accommodate students that are heavily dependent with their cell phones. This Magic School offered 4 different that I could use as part of my classroom management plan. To model for each of you what this looks like in each of the 4 categories. An environmental accommodation could be an alternative test location. It could be extended time on assignments, frequent breaks, or behavior monitoring and support. An instructional example of accommodation could be modified assignments, extended time on tests and assignments. There are other suggestions that this program offers that overlap with many of the other suggested accommodations. Peer adult interactions. This peer tutoring and pairing, flexible seating options, breaks with sensory tools, and visual supports and graphic organizers are things that we use very commonly in all of our classrooms. The assessment, our number 1 answer on the staff survey that we completed was extended time on assignments and tests. I wanted to provide you with a very useful tool. So we created anchor charts for each and every item on this handout. You will find these located in our Google Drive. These are formatted to fit on 3x5 index cards in case you wanted to have them at your fingertips. Each accommodation offers 4 suggestions on how to apply that accommodation and specific strategies. In conclusion, it's reassuring to know that we're doing a lot of things right, and the work that we do each day is extremely valuable. Because CMR High School is a better place to learn and work. We hope that you found this presentation helpful and that you can take back these tools and apply them to your classroom tomorrow. Thank you so much.